the biggest money in the world, who's closest to the information, is draining the exchanges of all of their hard assets, the commodities, and using the suppression and the leverage built into the system in these exchanges to run cover for it. And the ironic thing about it is that right now, for the first time in 3 years, the availability in the retail market where I live is the best it's been in 3 years. And the premiums are the lowest it's been in 3 years. And I can't quite wrap my head around it other than to say it is a gift, because only 0.5% of the entire financial matrix in the United States, from Joe Sixpack to the Harvard Endowment Fund, has any gold allocations whatsoever. It used to be 8% in 1980, and 2.5% is the mean over the last 40 years. We go back just to the average, where with 2.5% allocation in your portfolio would represent a 5-fold increase in demand in an industry that for the last 3 years has struggled mightily to keep inventory stocked and premiums at a reasonable level. So it's a very unusual time in everything in this world. And this is no exception in our industry. Well, and I ask people all the time, what makes the dollar the world reserve currency? No one really knows. When you come from a point where interest rates have been suppressed for so long, creating these distortions in asset prices, gold and silver will still be wealth, just like it was when pharaohs and kings and queens and emperors, all the way back to biblical times, had accumulated it. And that's why you own it. Not to get rich. And that was one of the things that was lost on the Wall Street Reddit group. The people that followed it, they came on the heels of AMC and GameStop and let's make all this money. And no, that's not why you own it. Yeah, you might make a lot of money in silver. Careful what you wish for. This is why it's time to do what the biggest money in the world is doing. What this representative from Idaho is saying, de-dollarizing the way the other central banks have been. And last year was the second most in history that the central banks of the world accumulated, the most since 1967 and the second most in history. So when the most well-funded, well-informed, influential people on the planet are accumulating that heavy of an accumulation of gold and silver and hard commodities, do what they're doing. Don't listen to what they're saying. Don't listen to the rhetoric. Don't look at the price. Just realize that this is bigger than all of us. And what better way to accumulate and to reposition than to hold down the paper price with huge leverage? And that's exactly what they're doing. If $7,000 in my margin account allows me to control 100 ounces of gold, what if I have $500 million in my margin account? And then I'll buy the physical at pennies on the dollar while I suppress the paper price, and then I'll just write a check to cover my position. Unless, of course, they demand delivery. This is one of the reasons I think you're seeing JP Morgan just put 7 million ounces of silver into the registered category last week. I believe that someone is demanding delivery from a short contract or lots of short contracts. And there's only so much of that can happen before the game stops. And it's easy to suppress the price of gold when no one's standing for delivery. But when everyone stands for delivery and you have only 39 million ounces of silver backing all the contracts in play right now, that's a very dangerous short position, in my opinion, where the banks at that point will not be able to short the market anymore, because you run the risk of someone saying, I don't care, I'll take your short contract, but I'm going to stand for delivery, which is an option that you are afforded on the commodity exchange. And the day they stop allowing that would be the day, in my opinion, that the Moscow exchange, this new Moscow exchange, pegs gold at $3,000 or $4,000 an ounce, pegs silver at $100 an ounce, and everything leaves the COMEX. Everything leaves the LBMA to catch that arbitrage, flows eastward, and it's game over at that point. If I were running this show on that side of the ledger, it's exactly what I would do. You didn't buy a house or a car in the 50s unless you had the money. Maybe a mortgage for a home, and average price of a home in 1960 was like $17,000, right? Now it's 400 plus thousand. And so it's the greatest gift that I've ever been given. And if I can help anyone achieve that same level of comfort, I can tell you it works. The compounding of time and of interest, you want to work for you instead of against you. And more so the compounding of interest, but time has a way of compounding pretty quick too, the older you get. So the IMF was formulated in 1942 at Bretton Woods. The IMF, the US has veto rights. It's a very Western thing. It's 150 countries from around the world that the United States has severe influence over. Revalue gold the way FDR did in 1933 without confiscating it, because it wouldn't be, maybe they confiscate the ETFs. Wouldn't do them any good to take gold from the very small percentage of the people who own it in this country, but revalue the stockpile they have. Let gold, and say it's ironic if you look at the way it's held in all of these central banks on their balance sheet, it's held in an account called the revaluation account. Maybe that's the ultimate plan. They'll revalue gold to 10,000 an ounce. They'll peg 10% of it, of every new dollar, to gold, held in a vault, audited by whoever, and finally go back to sound money. Maybe, just maybe. So I'm not totally a pessimist. I'm an optimist, I guess, in life. I've honored my word. And for 33 years, every 2 weeks, I have accumulated something, because to me, it's wealth. It's the best gift my father ever gave me. Taught me how to pay myself first and how to save. And when I accumulate gold and silver, in no way am I looking at it as an investment. To me, it's wealth. When I leave it as a legacy for my kids, no matter what happens to the bills in my wallet that someday will be hanging from a frame in the Smithsonian, much like, this old currency is, and a lot of these other things that once were legal tender and currency in the US won't be at some point. I know that gold and silver will still be immutable wealth. So as we talk about premiums and gold and silver and all this stuff, I just want you to understand, and everyone out there, that to me, it's wealth, always has been. If you own enough of it, you'll be wealthy, but that's not why I own it. And honestly, it has been the best gift my father's ever given me. And if I can impart that upon anyone, I do. All the people who work for me, I make them buy something every 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, whether it be waiting to do your homework when you're in 9th grade until Sunday night, or trying to save for your retirement, we all wake up one morning and how did we get to where we are? I mean, how did I get to be 52 years old? I swear I'm still 19 in my brain. And that's the thing, is that if you don't pay yourself first, make a conscious effort to do it and put it in a fashion that doesn't allow you to piss it away easily, you wake up one morning and you're wishing that you would have just done that, because time is something that, we all have to deal with. And so that would be the one piece of advice I'd give to anyone, any young person, no matter what field they are, and whether you're buying gold and silver, whatever it is that you're accumulating, pay yourself first. I think you'll be glad you did. The success that my company has had is that we come from nothing.